Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nicky and I'm joined as always by the man who often asks me if my wee balls are hanging down okay. It's Greg. How are you today, Greg?
Very well indeed. It's been a busy day. It's been my daughter's birthday tomorrow, but we're recording this on Saturday, and every good 15-year-old knows that a Saturday's a better day to have your birthday party on than a Sunday. So yeah,
of course.
Doing a lot of fatherly duties. So I have, and marvelling at the difference between a 15-year-old boy in 2023 and my own peers when I was 15. They seem.
Why? What would you say is the main difference?
They just seem a lot younger. I mean, you know, when I was 15, I was going to high school in Aberdeenshire. I mean, there was guys there that could grow like a full beard and like overnight in my year when I was 15 up there. Do you know what I mean? Like these farmers' sons with fists as big as your thighs and all that, you know. And these kids are all sort of Dubai little softies. I had to show them all how to swing a golf club. Can you believe it? Not one of them knew how to do it.
Oh, it's a scandal. It's a scandal. I mean, of course, we knew how to swing a golf club at a younger age, but it was more for hitting each other with than actually playing. But you're right. There was always kids like that. Yeah. I can remember his name, Jeff, sitting in computing in like third or fourth year, and like he came back after summer, he had a full-on fucking beard. You know, like not even a scraggly thing, like a beard like I've got right now. Like I was like, where the fuck did that come from?
I know. I used to wonder if maybe there were like 30-year-old guys that were infiltrating to try and get their standard grades, you know, because they fucked it up the first time.
Well, it does happen. We have read about stories like that, so it does actually happen. But yeah, I guess there is a difference from when we were younger. Is it because, and obviously because you're in Dubai and stuff, and there's not the same, you know, when we were kids growing up in Scotland, you know, you were out all the time, like in the summer and stuff, and you were out the house, and you go to the park and muck around, and you could always, you know, nip down to the off license and ask someone to buy you some beer and stuff. But there was always stuff like that going on. So is that maybe why we felt a bit older at that time?
Maybe. I mean, I was getting into like some pubs when I was 15. Not all. Like, you know, I didn't always pass muster with the bartender or the landlord, but there was a couple of pubs in Peterhead that I always get into and never had any issue. But I can't imagine any of those kids like trying to get served at a bar. You know, I can't even imagine them being able to buy fags, let alone buy a pint.
Well, they want to though now, because a lot of the youngsters don't drink nowadays.
No,
do they?
Well, that's it. Although my daughter, my wife's favourite drink is vodka. That's like her go-to, and she ran out, but we did have a bottle of absolute raspberry vodka at the back of the cupboard. So my wife Paula was having one earlier on, and my daughter, whose birthday it is today, came sniffing round, and she went, "Oh, that's just it." She said, "Can I smell it?" And I said, "Yeah." So she had a smell of this, but she, "Oh, it smells really nice. Could I just try a tiny, tiny bit?" So I said, "Okay." So I poured her a little bit, and I turned to go and get her something to put in it, and she just knocked it. It wasn't like it wasn't a shot. It was, you know, it was like maybe like a teaspoon of, and she was like, "Oh." I said, "You're supposed to put something in it." She's like, "Oh, I didn't realise." She said, "It's like burning." I said, "You don't just like." I said, "I think you just maybe learned an important lesson."
15 years old and drinking straight vodka. There you go.
Well, I don't think she'll be rushing to do that again.
Oh, very good. Oh, well, everything else good with you?
Yep, all's good. Looking forward to talking about today's film.
Yes, definitely. Looking forward to that later on. So, yes. But before we talk about that, I guess we better have a little look at what's been happening in Scotland over the last couple of weeks.
Cue the jingle.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, Greg, so what have you seen in the last couple of weeks in Scotland that has caught your eye?
Well, my first story is along the lines of which we were just discussing there. It's from the Daily Record on the 12th of June. The headline reads, "Joint vape and sweetie store near Scots High School sparks fury from parents." So this is Hazy Vape sorry, Hayes, spelled Hayz, vape, and Hayes Candy on a high street in Denny. The photographer who's taken a picture of the shop for the paper has managed to get 2 schoolgirls in the picture as well, just to pile the scandal on. Parents have reacted with horror to the opening of a vapes and candy shop just round the corner from a Scots high school. The store, recently painted pink, was slammed as a disgrace and an embarrassment by locals in Denny near Falkirk. Formerly just a vape shop, the storefront sign now reads Hayes Vape / Hayes Candy with a teddy bear logo in the middle. It's located at a busy crossroads which includes the main route to the local high school, about a 10-minute walk up the road for school kids. One parent, who wished to stay anonymous, told the Record, the Hayes Vape and Hayes Candy shop has recently been painted a bright pink colour on the outside of the building, making it stand out and be very noticeable with a huge sign advertising their vapes and sweets. It's also next door to the Candied ice cream shop. I find it a disgrace that our local council would allow vape shops to open so close to a school and also to advertise and sell sweets in the same premises. I think it's disgusting. How can we prevent young people from taking up smoking vapes if we are encouraging them into these brightly coloured sweet shops on their way to school? The town is already littered with rubbish and vapes and discarded all around the streets and gateways and pathways to and from the high school. It's such an embarrassment to the town. It's evidently a pub next door because it's one of the big classic tea for tenants signs like sticking out the building at the edge of the picture. The council chief stressed there was nothing illegal about the branding of the store, which used to be a betting shop, but campaigners and politicians hit out at our disturbing findings and growing alarm over the widespread use of vaping products among kids, including on school premises. Recent stats show 1 in 10 15-year-old Scots admit to regularly vaping, up from just 3% a few years ago. Scots media posts from the Denny business include promotional images of a chew vape surrounded by chewy sweets. So there's a bottle of, I guess it's the stuff that you pour into the vape, the sort of refill stuff. And it's evidently surrounded by Chewits, strawberry flavour.
Nice.
If my eyes don't deceive me. Other updates include encouraging the use of Go Henry cards, which apparently are prepaid debit cards available for youngsters aged 6 to 18. Despite the store selling both vapes and sweets, on Facebook the company uses 2 different pages, one called Hayes Vape and the other one's called Hayes Candy. A post on the Hayes Candy page, but shared by Hayes Vape on April 21st, said, "Hi everyone, just to let you know that the card machine now accepts Go Henry cards." Sheila Duffy, the boss of health charity Ash Scotland, said, "We are deeply disturbed by shops promoting sweet flavoured vaping products in ways that are clearly targeted at children. The image of a teddy bear in the store's signage and a photo of a vape surrounded by sweets on the shop's Facebook page is extremely troubling. By associating vaping with the allure of candy treats, shops like these could be creating a dangerous connection in the minds of children, leading them to believe that e-cigarettes are harmless." Right, so when I was a little boy, and my dad used to take me down to the newsagents to get my copy of the Beano, or whatever magazine or comic I was into at the time, do you know what they sold behind the counter?
Vapes?
All the cigarettes. Everything from Lambert and Butler to Kensington's Clubs and everything in between.
To little candy cigarettes that you could smoke.
With the Incredible Hulk in the front.
Or they used to those little candy ones, and then I remember there was a little upgrade ones that had, it was like chocolate, like a chocolate tube, and it was wrapped in like edible paper. So it did look like a roll-up that you were smoking.
that you were eating.
Eating, yeah. So it's, come on. It's
It seems like it does seem like a bit of a step too far to me. I think sometimes we forget that kids aren't they're not all idiots. Do you know what I mean? In fact, most kids these days are a lot sharper probably than we were at that age. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I wonder if it is though, like this vape shop is selling them under the premise that, it's Chewit flavour vape liquid that kids, you've just said that your daughter wanted to try raspberry vodka. So I can see the kind of point in that. And the vapes, like if it's those disposable pens, they all come in pretty colours that, so I don't know. I think it's a bit much, as long as the vape shop is being legal and not selling to anyone under, I don't know, what is it now, 16, 18? I think
it's 18, the legal age of cigarettes in Scotland these days. When you and I were young, it was 16.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is 18 now. So as long as they're obeying the law and not selling them, then I don't see an issue.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's next to the pub. You want to come out the pub, nip in, get your vape, get a packet of sweeties, and off you go. Yeah. Away home and have a lovely vape.
I mean, something has just occurred to me there when I was talking about like going to the shop, my dad, and cigarettes and all that being around and stuff. And I did smoke for years when I got older.
Yeah, me too. So maybe that is why you're right. Just I was always trying to get that hit again from that candy cigarette, but I was never able to get it.
It's never as good as the first time,
lovely.
Is it?
No, that lovely chocolatey taste with the edible paper. Can never capture that again.
So, I mean, like, when I think back to like the first couple of cigarettes that I had, with your mates and all that. I mean, the first time you smoke, it's fucking disgusting. But you have to pretend that, that's really hit the spot. You know what I mean? It's like the kids in Stand By Me sitting around the fire. You know what I mean? Like, I love nothing tastes as good as a cigarette after dinner. Do you know what I mean? But you're literally just putting yourself through it until you like it.
I remember probably the first drag I had in a cigarette was round at my uncle's, and a couple of my cousins were there as well. And he was smoking a cigarette and he was about to do something and he was like, hold this, as you do, And so I think I was trying to show off in front of my cousin. So I had a little puff on it and it was a Capstan full strength, and fucking hell, I was green and I've never felt so sick in all my life. It's a wonder that I took it up again a few years later. Like, you think that would have been enough to put me off for life? Fucking hell. Never smoked a Capstan full strength again.
I mean, those Capstans full strength, like navy cut cigarettes, can get you high. I remember someone having a packet of them once and smoking. Well, not even a whole one, just a few draws, and like your head's literally spinning. You know what I mean? Well,
there you go. The kids don't need vapes. They should just get a packet of Capstan full strength. I wonder if you still get Capstan full strength, actually.
I'm not sure.
I've no idea. I'll need to find that out.
Yeah, I mean, I have tried the old vape. I don't like it. I mean, it's sort of heavier. Like the next day, like my chest feels a bit, because the thing is as well, if you smoke a cigarette, it's got a very sort of definite beginning and end. Whereas with a vape, you just end up smoking it more. You know what I mean? Because you're just taking a few puffs. So I think you actually, especially if you're on a night out, I think you actually smoke more if you're vaping than, especially if you're somewhere like here where you don't have to go outside. You can just
Yeah.
And the next day, my chest is always always feels really heavy. You know what I mean? Which I never felt like that when I was on the good stuff.
Well, don't do it, kids. Just go in and get your sweets. Don't pick up a vape.
Just have normal fags instead if you're going to smoke.
Yeah.
If you can afford them. Anyway, that's my first story this week. What's your first story?
My first story is from the Daily Record this week. And it's quite an interesting one. As soon as I read the headline, I thought, yep, I'm having a bit of that. So, a masked knight, as in a knight of the realm, for example. So, a masked knight wearing a homemade suit of armour who was spotted brandishing a knife at a popular tourist spot has been jailed. Robert Souter had fashioned body armour out of old metal plates, lids, books, and a chopping board before heading to Dundee Law at midnight. But his armour failed to protect him from police dog Rocky, who flushed him out of hiding in the undergrowth and sank his teeth into him. Officers had not been able to spot the black-clad knight hiding, but heard him screaming, "I'm here! The dog bit me!" Souter, 37, from Dundee, admitted having a knife on Dundee Law, overlooking the city, shortly after midnight on the 9th of January last year. Fiscal Deputy Lynn Mannon told Dundee Sheriff Court on Tuesday that Souter was spotted on the hilltop by motorists who were driving past. He was reported to police by a number of people because of his unusual appearance and the fact he was wielding a large kitchen knife with a 7-inch blade. He was standing near the toilet block, Miss Mannon said. He had a large kitchen knife in his hand and he was wearing a black face mask and jacket. Police arrived and saw the accused on the steps of the toilet block. He was holding a shiny object which was illuminated by the headlights. Officers shouted at him to drop the knife, but the accused turned and ran up the steps until he went out of sight. Officers and the police dog Rocky began to track him down. They went through a densely wooded area, and 10 minutes later he was traced by Rocky, lying down on the bottom of a steep slope, where he shouted, "I'm here, the dog bit me." Officers made their way to accused, and he was placed in handcuffs. He was wearing makeshift body armour, which consisted of metal plates containing books, a metal lid, and a chopping board. I don't understand this books part. His defending solicitor said he was hearing voices, and it is bizarre behaviour. There is a background of drug abuse. I think that played a part. It has to be accepted that substances were taken. He fell under threat and under attack and armed himself to defend himself. The sheriff said that this is a serious crime. You were in a public place after midnight with a knife and wearing homemade body armour. I know there was an element of paranoia, but it was you who chose to take the drugs. He jailed Souter for 14 months. So that's, it's fair enough. I understand you were having a bit of an attack, but it was you that chose to take the drugs that caused this. I just don't understand. He was wearing body armour, which consisted of old metal plates, fine. Pot lids, fine. Books and a chopping board.
Cooking books? Cookbooks or just normal books?
I don't know. Maybe, yeah, could be. I've no idea. I mean, I hope they were hardbacks at least, because, if you get a knife with a little paperback, especially if it's a wee one, then you're going to be in trouble.
I don't think a copy of the Brooms is going to offer a lot of protection if someone tries to plunge you.
No, definitely not. Although you could offer it to them, because who could resist a copy of the Brooms? Yeah, a quick scan. You could say, "Hey, come on, let's just have a seat, thrash this out, and see what Pa Broon's up to." I'm sure there'll be some mishap that he's out and the family think he's dead or something, but he's actually at the bowling club.
There'll be some misunderstanding.
He's in the bath.
With hilarious consequences.
He's maybe at the Button Ben or something. Good on police dog Rocky, who was able to sniff him out of the woods.
Any pictures of Rocky in the article?
There's not any pictures of Rocky, no. But what I know is the body armour must have been quite shite if Rocky was able to get through. I mean, I guess it was just from torso up. I presume he didn't have his legs covered in this armour, but he should have, but otherwise Rocky might not be able to bite him.
I feel like police dogs are trained to go for like the forearm, right? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Forearm or maybe the calf. But whenever you see them being trained, someone's usually got like a big arm pad on, and the dog's like,
Yeah, I guess that's maybe because it could be the case that it's maybe they're brandishing a weapon or something, and that's they're thinking that the police dog will be able to bite them and get them. I don't. Never mind. But anyway, so he's got 14 months to have a little think about how he's going to craft his next Iron Man suit, and maybe he'll be able to come up with schematics when he's in the jail. And
maybe that's what he's doing right now. Maybe he's like fashioning some sort of crude suit of armour to blast his way out of whatever Lomos prison or wherever they've sent him.
What, made down with a fucking melted down toothbrush and a toilet roll?
Yeah, exactly.
What a hell of weaponry that he'll manage to sort himself out with there. Anyway, never mind. So, what else have you seen this week, Greg?
So, very occasionally on the podcast, we have a nice story. Not that often, but occasionally we do. So I thought for a little change of pace, I would, and it's also a bit of a public service I'm going to do here, a bit of information. So, this is from the Daily Record on the 12th of June as well. The most remote pub in Britain is offering free beer to anybody who takes on Scott's hike. This is, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, the Knoy Dart Brewery, so Knoy Dart, I think I've pronounced it right. The Knoy Art Brewery, which owns the Old Forge in Inverry, will provide free beer to anyone who gets there after a 15-mile hike this summer. The Old Forge is located in the village of Inverry, which is on the northern shore of Loch Nevis, and it's considered to be the most remote pub in Britain. Knoy Dart Brewery, which owns the pub, will provide a free trade ale beer for anyone who takes on the challenge this summer from the 1st of July. But the trip isn't as easy as you may think, as there are no official roads to the pub. The only options are to hike from Glenfinnan, which traditionally takes 2 days, or a sea ferry from Mallaig. The team behind the trade ale say it has been inspired by the mountainous landscape of the Knoy Dart Peninsula and the loch, which is known as the Loch of Heaven. Stephanie Harris, who works at the Old Forge, said, "Having recently carried out an extensive refurb on our community-owned pub, we are looking forward to reopening the doors and welcoming folk in at the end of their epic trail over the hills of the rough bounds to get here. Slàinte. Free trails, which is trade ales. abbreviating it to trails, which is quite a good little marketing thing considering the hiking and everything. Free trails will be given away at the Old Forge from July the 1st. It's limited to 2 per person while stocks last after a partnership with sports retailer Wiggle. A limited number of non-alcoholic alternatives will also be available over the summer. Just a limited number, mind. Hugh, was it? Oh my god, he's Welsh guy. Hugh, I'm going to try and say his middle name, so I'll just make a cunt of it. Hugh Williams, who's the Wiggle CEO, said, "At Wiggle, we're always up for it, whatever the activity, and aim to encourage the same spirit among our customers. We're delighted to have partnered with the Old Forge and Noid Art Brewery to create this unique new beer while celebrating the very best of what the beautiful Scottish outdoors has to offer. Visiting this remote peninsula is a special experience, and we hope that gifting hikers and punters with a trail will make it even more special." But you have to quote the word wiggle when you get to the bar, which takes the edge off it a little bit. But you still got 2 free beers. So
do you have to say wiggle, I'm up for anything, when you, like Hugh says, or just say wiggle?
15 miles. You have to sort of orienteer your way there, I guess, since there's no roads.
Yeah, you deserve a pint after that.
But the thing is, so you have to drink like 2 beers and then presumably walk back the way you came for another 15 miles.
Surely you'd just get a taxi, wouldn't
roads,
you?
mate.
But it's such a remote place, so 15 miles just for a pint and then have to go back 15 miles. That's a long way, but it's a great initiative, I think. You know, it's getting people out there, out into the
fresh air,
the countryside and looking at these remote places. But yeah, it's a long way to go for a pint.
Yeah, it sure is. We were going to do a bit of a Scottish holiday this year, weren't we? We'll have to maybe try and plan it for next year.
Yeah, we were. And we need to get something planned for that, because it is something that we should be doing and going to visit famous filming locations and things like that and see all the lovely places that we're speaking about on the podcast.
Yep. So the only other perhaps detracting thing is I don't think it's a pint, Nicky. I think it's like a bottle, maybe 2 bottles of beer you get.
Oh, it's a bit of a swizz then, isn't it? I mean, I guess is there no wiggle room in the negotiations for that?
Well, I mean, what I would say to anybody who's going to do the walk is definitely say that at the bar when you ask for a third one.
Oh, that's a shame. Never mind. Oh, feel a bit cheated.
Yeah, I do. I was going to do it, but I think I'll bother now. You know, so.
Yeah. Oh, well, never mind. We'll maybe do it next time or something. We'll see. Shocking. Never mind. Oh, well, it's a good little initiative, I would say.
I would say the same. Anyway, that's my second story from Scotland. What's your next one?
Well, my next story, Greg, is from the Scottish Sun this week. And you would probably walk 15 miles if you had this waiting for you at the end of it. A brewery has launched a Bucky beer to celebrate Scotland's love for the tonic wine. Vault City Brewery has created the Blackberry Bucky Sesh Sour as part of its collection of new releases. The Edinburgh-based brewery released 3 new beers, including the Bucky Sesh Sour, which comes in a can. The drink is described as a literal sour for the sesh and has the familiar aromas of sweet, dark-scented fruits and cough medicine conditioned on juicy blackberries for a big flavour and a big night. Sharing the news, the company said, "Bucky, wreck the hoose juice, a bottle of tonic." There are many names for the cultural phenomenon that inspired our latest high-voltage beer, but we've settled on Sesh Sour. The 2 flavours of beer are simply just blackberry and Bucky. The brewery took the new cans to Buckfast Abbey in Devon, England, where the wine is made, for a series of photos on their Instagram, and they say it is their most requested beer of all time. To go with the new beer, the brewer has teamed up with Thick Sauce and created a Bucky Blackberry Tonic Wine Chipotle Barbecue Glaze. This collaboration comes in celebration of Thick Sauce's 3rd birthday, and the glaze is perfect for burnt ends and wash down with your favourite tonic wine inspired beer. Both the beer and the sauce can be bought on the Vault City website. Other new flavours released include Double Swirl Vanilla Donut and Toasted Coconut Lemon Drizzle Donut. Vault City Brewery is the largest sour beer producer in the UK and opened in 2018. Now, would you drink a Bucky beer?
I don't think so. I might try that, but I don't mind a sour beer occasionally. But you can only really do 1. I couldn't do that, or maybe 2. I couldn't do like a session on like sour beers.
I mean, where does it end with this? Would you want a double vanilla swirl donut beer?
No. I mean,
What about a toasted coconut lemon drizzled donut beer?
Definitely not. I mean, the Even Brewdog, who generally I am a supporter of and enjoy their beverages, they got a few that are just out there, like toasted marshmallow
like
flavors.
Toasted marshmallow. Yeah.
I think our mutual friend quite likes them, but not for me.
Yeah, there's a few like strange ones out there, and you're just like, I just want a beer. I mean, I'm drinking a can of, it's a Dutch brewer, Two Chefs Brewing, Funky Falcon. It's 0.2% non-alcoholic pale ale. They describe it as, what is it? It's a super crushable beer. Well, it's 0.2%, so I'd hope it is, with a light character, smooth bitterness, and a suave finish to make you feeling fresh, all the while boasting fabulous flavours of lemongrass and citrus and flaunting floral aromas, with a hint of pine. I mean, that sounds like a toilet cleaner to me.
It definitely does. Some kind of household
Do
product.
I drink it or put it down a U-bend? But it does. It tastes lovely.
Right.
Like, it's really nice. And if you told me that was like a 5% beer, I would believe you. But it's, these descriptions and these flavours, just give me a beer. I mean, I don't mind if it's maybe a beer with like a hint of cherry in it or something, or just on special occasions, of course. Yeah. But I don't know if I can be arsed with all these, fancy flavours. I mean, it's not even fancy. It's a double vanilla swirl donut. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I mean, the last time I was home in March, like when I'm home, I tend to drink quite a lot of like IPAs and craft beers, just because, they're not as easy to come by here. And when you do get them, you tend to be quite expensive. But like the first week I was home, pretty much every night I had like a few of whatever it was. I was like Hazy Janes or Dead Pony Clubs or whatever I happened to pick up at the local shop. And then the next week, we're down in Newcastle, and my stepdad had brought like a case of Peroni. It was in the fridge, and so I had one of them, and it was fucking delicious. Just like an honest, straightforward, ice chilled Peroni.
Yeah.
It was, like after a week of drinking all these different flavours and concoctions and stuff, just like an Old Faithful. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. That's what you need.
Just a little,
I mean, can't go wrong with an Old Faithful.
Exactly.
Nice can of Tennent's. You can't go wrong with that at all.
Absolutely not. Oh, I've seen Tennent's for sale here.
Oh, yeah, I saw someone on the Aberdeen group, I think, had posted it. Yeah, one of the off-licenses had it for sale. They had a load of cases, so...
Yeah, I need to get some.
There you go.
Go down and buy some.
You don't have to be without it anymore. So, have you seen anything else this week, Greg, that has caught your eye?
Nope, that's the lot.
Nope. The only other thing I saw was, did you see that Banksy is having an exhibition in Glasgow?
I did read about that, yeah.
And did you read that he's revealed what his favourite piece of art is?
Now, is it the Duke of Wellington statue with a cone on the head? Yeah, I read the article.
Yes, it is indeed. Yeah, it is indeed. So yeah, that is his favourite piece of art, because he said it's just beautiful and it's free, and that's the best thing. So I thought that was a nice little tale there. Banksy.
That's like his sort of it's his thing, isn't it? Because he always, this sort of secretive nature of how he conducts his business and puts his work. He always puts his work up in public places for everyone to enjoy. So it makes sense that he would enjoy the Duke of Wellington statue.
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't enjoy the Duke of Wellington statue? Out there in all its glory for everyone to enjoy. Wonderful. Okay then. Well, I guess that wraps up the news for this week on the podcast. So before we go on to what we're going to be talking about today, let's have a little word from our sponsors. And our sponsors are, of course, Doric Skateboards, the skateboard brand created by Gary Kemp from Aberdeen that encourages people to get on a board, whether they're old, young, good, bad, or in the middle. The main focus of Doric is to explore the people and culture of Aberdeen and the northeast of Scotland and create designs to reflect that area. I've been a loyal customer of Doric since Gary started the brand in 2017, and this is a brand that I really am passionate about. Doric Skateboards screen print their own decks in their own studio by Gary's fair hand, and they produce some amazing designs, including an Annie Lennox inspired board, a Robert the Bruce deck, and a Plenty of Pop deck inspired by the old Aberdeen trucks that used to drive around Aberdeen delivering fizzy drinks. Doric Skateboards also replicate these amazing designs on their clothing, on 100% organic tees, hoodies and sweatshirts, and you can fill your boots on stickers, pin badges and beanies as well. Gary regularly collaborates with local artists to ensure that you can bring the latest designs to the market, but always with a Doric twist, including his new design, the Northfield Tower, with tees, hoodies and merch landing at the end of June, so probably available now, because this episode will drop on the 29th of June. So why don't you head over to Doric Skateboards on doricskateboards.com and follow them on Instagram at Doric Skateboards to see the new designs and all the other amazing designs for yourself. And we are delighted to be able to offer you 15% off as listeners to this podcast. All you need to do is head to doricskateboards.com, have a look at all the amazing decks, stickers, badges, hoodies and tees, everything they have to offer. Enter the promo code SWALLY, that's SWALLY, same as the name of this podcast, all in block capitals, and get your 15% off. doricskateboards.com. So Greg, this is the point of the show where normally I would say to you, it was your choice what we're going to be talking about, or you would say to me it was my choice. However, the choice on the Swally today actually came from Gary at Doric Skateboards. In an interview that I did with him a couple of episodes ago, and you would have heard at the end of the last episode that he's asked us to look at the 1998 film directed by Ken Loach, My Name is Joe. Starring Peter Mullan, Louise Goodall, Dave McKay, Gary Lewis, David Hayman, and a wee role for Swally stalwart Stephen McCall. The film was written by Paul Laverty, who Loach has collaborated with on, I think, every film he's done since 1996's Carla's Song. The film tells the tale of two 30-somethings. Unemployed former alcoholic Joe, who manages his local football team full of recovering addicts, and Sarah, a community health worker. When the two start a little bit of a romantic relationship in one of the toughest Glasgow areas, things don't quite always go as rosy as they should, as Joe battles his past and tries to keep on the straight and narrow. So Greg, My Name is Joe. I can't believe it's taken us so long to get to this absolute classic. What's your first memories of the film? Because obviously it's not the first time that you've seen this. Where were you when you first saw it, and what are your memories of it?
I remember Peter Mullan, before I saw the film, I remember him winning the, I think it was the Best Actor at the Cannes Film Festival, I believe, for his performance, and him being there in like the full tartan regalia with some other members of the cast and the production team. I remember thinking, oh, I need to see that. And it took me a while to see it, and I actually rented it. I watched it with my dad. I rented it from the video shop. I think we rented Orphans and My Name is Joe the same night, just to make sure.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a right fucking laugh. If not on the same night, then certainly quite close together. So yeah, that was the first time I'd seen it, and I remember feeling. I mean, I've seen it. It's not a film that I've watched hundreds of times. I've watched it probably less than a handful of times. Maybe this might even only be the third or fourth time that I've watched it. But a feeling that was with me the very first time I watched it, that was still with me when I watched it this time, and it's been many, many, many years since I last watched it, is from the very moment Joe meets Sarah, played by Louise Goodall, you know that it's going to end fucking badly. You just know, like instinctively. You know, it's just that it's all going too well. You know what I mean? And there's just this sort of like shadow growing across it and across the film. That said, it is still a fucking brilliant film, you know what I mean? But it's definitely not a film that you're going to stick on when you don't have anything else to watch. You know what I mean? I think you have to be ready for it, I think. And normally I'll watch whatever we're going to review it for the podcast. I'll watch it maybe twice in the week that we record. I kept putting this off to the point where I ended up sort of surreptitiously watching it at work on my phone in my little office corner where no one could see me, and just watching it the one time and just making all my notes stuff then. So I there's no way I could have watched it twice in a week. It's just it's too powerful a film that you're fucked at the end of it, you know? Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. I was the same as you. I think I'd rented it just after it had come out on video. I remember it must have been 99 or 2000, but I remember vividly renting this, and it's one of those films I remember watching it for the first time and exactly kind of where I was, and just being absolutely blown away by this film. It was just incredible. And same as you, I think it was just a handful of times, maybe twice I think I'd watched it, and because as you say, it's such a powerful film. It really does just sucker punch you. And as you say, Ken Loach isn't exactly the man you seek out if you're looking for a light-hearted romantic comedy.
No.
You kind of know what you're going to be getting when you're watching a Ken Loach film. Thankfully, because I'd spoken to Gary a few weeks ago, I watched this about a month ago myself, just to preempt, because it must have been about 20 years since I'd seen it. And I have to say, watching it, and my wife was away, so I just sat and watched it myself. I think it was one Saturday night. You know, what a great night. Entertainment, sitting in myself watching My Name is Joe. And it just blew me away again, because this film is just incredible. And I did watch it again this week to make my notes, because I didn't make any notes when I watched it a few weeks ago, because I wanted to really just enjoy it and absorb it and not have to, stop and write stuff down and pause as I usually do when I'm making notes. So I just took it all in and then watched it again this week to make notes. I mean, there's a lot of serious topics covered in this film. It's about alcoholism and poverty, unemployment, drug abuse, domestic violence, a lot of which are Ken Loach staples, of course. Yeah. But there's a story in here with just such warmth and humour, and you just become so invested into the characters. And that's something that I think Ken Loach does so well in a lot of his films. He builds these characters up that you really care for them, and you want them to do well, and you really, it shows their soft side of the characters, and they're a good person, and then he just sets fire to their world, or in Sweet 16's case, to their caravan. And you're so devastated when the inevitable House of Cards falls down, and it's just a masterstroke of the way that he can do that in these films.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, like he's got I think his process is, I think he encourages quite a lot of improvisation with the actors and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I think that's definitely his process. I mean, it's difficult for me. When I think of My Name is Joe, I always think of Orphan as well. And, obviously because of the Peter Mullan connection, but because I watched them both very close together. And Orphans is like a powerful film too, but I never feel as sort of exhausted at the end of Orphans, because the ending is quite upbeat. Like the siblings walking away from the grave, and sort of having a bit of a crack and everything, and you sort of feel like, well, it might not be perfect, but I think these guys will be okay. Whereas
they've got each other.
Yeah, they've got each other. Whereas at the end of My Name is Joe, spoilers for anyone who's not seen it, it's a very, very ambiguous ending. I mean, it's sort of. It suggests a bit of, well, maybe things will work out for Joe and Sarah, maybe. Maybe there's the terrible incident that ends the film that kind of brings them back together. Maybe they'll make something good will come of it, potentially. But, he doesn't, it's not certain, you know what I mean? And like, I remember the first time I saw the film, Peter Mullan, I think it's because of that first scene when we see him at the alcohol and the AA meeting, and he's talking about how he came to sobriety. Like, I remember being really shocked, like, when he falls off the wagon in the third act toward the end. And even in the flashback scene when he's describing the incident that finally pushed him to give up drinking after beating up his ex-girlfriend and everything. He's a different character when he's drunk. Like when he's through the majority of the film, obviously he's sober, and he's a fucking great guy. You know what I mean? He's full of energy. He cares for Liam and Sabine, and he obviously falls in love with Sarah, and he's just even when you see him interacting in the little sort of throwaway moments when he's being served at a shop, or he's talking to somebody in the surgery or whatever and asking where Sarah is, I can completely understand why he was recognised for this performance. It can. Because we've met guys like him at any city in the UK, let alone Scotland. There are guys like him, you know what I mean? And I'm sure you and I have known people through the years that maybe haven't been alcoholics, but when they're drunk, they're completely different. You know what I mean? Like, some people, when they drink, like, their personality can change. Don't necessarily become violent or whatever, but they are different to how they are when they're sober. Like, it just affects people in that way. Some people.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think the opening performance, of course, the opening performance, the opening speech that he delivers at the AA meeting is so powerful. and you're straight on with the character and the struggles that he's had. And they do such a good job in terms of then it's straight into banging on the door, open up, police, and everyone jumping out the windows, and it's the football team, and he's having a laugh with them, and you can tell he's got a good relationship with the boys, and a great relationship with his best mate, Shanks, played by Gary Lewis. Christ, I'll talk about them later. I want a spin-off, of those two in some way. They're just brilliant together, and the chemistry. And you're right, Joe comes across, he's got the patter when he's speaking to Sarah, he's flirting with her, but, being cheeky, but in a playful way, and, he's being really nice to her, and you can tell he's a genuine guy who really cares. As you say, when he's drunk, he's got a different side to him. But is there something underlying in him? Because when he sees the guy from the social with the camera, he snaps. Yeah. And he runs down and, it's a cunt from the social, and he's painting all over his car and smacking him with a paintbrush. Is that, there is something simmering underneath it, and it just comes out when he's drunk.
Yeah, and then also the scene in the pub toward the end when he goes to see David Hayman's character, McGowan, to say, look, I'm out, blah, blah, blah. And, when Mojo threatens to, shag Sarah, he's quick to violence, Joe, and he fucking claims everyone. Do you know what?
Oh yeah. Bar. It's like Liam Neeson taken or something. He just absolutely wipes everyone out in that bar. It's fantastic.
But what I think, whether this is from the script or whether it's Peter Mullan's and the rest of the cast, so a keen sense of character and improvisation. But I think when he first takes Sarah back to his house after she gets locked out, and he's got some little reminders of when he was younger around the house, including when he was in a band and he won a talent show and stuff. And there's all these little kind of indicators toward maybe wasted potential.
Exactly.
The way he is, he's very energetic. He's an upbeat character. He's quick with a joke and stuff like that. And and he's obviously got a lot of love to give. He falls for Sarah really quickly, much to her sort of discomfort. But this sort of suggestion of what could have been for him had he not sort of fallen down the sort of alcohol hole, if you like.
And I think he recognises that when he's speaking to Shanks and about Sarah, and he's effectively, he says to her, she's got her own house, she's got a job, she's got a pension, she's got a car. I'm 37, I'll be 38 soon. I've got nothing, absolutely nothing. And he realises that he's pissed his life up against the wall, effectively. And it is about what he's lost and what he could have done. But you're right, he does, I guess, hold on to those memories that he had when he was younger.
Yeah, and it's a nice little scene that when Shanks is trying to encourage him to ask her out, and he's suggesting things that they could do, is that you could take her for a meal. And I think he says, well, how much do you think that would cost? He says a meal for two is probably going to cost about £25. I'm thinking it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah,
I suppose
it's 1998.
Yeah. But then, he's like, well, what about going to the pictures? And he's like, no, I can't sit still that long,
Yeah.
And, and it's like, that's when you start to, that's when you get a bit more of an indication of what his life's like, because he never stops moving. Up to that point, when he's sitting playing chess with Shanks at his work, and they're talking about how up until that point, he's moving all the time. You know what I mean? He gets up from the meeting, he drives to get the team, as you described already, then he has that exchange with Sarah outside Liam's, then he's at the park watching the game and everything, and he never stops until and then he's painting the house and everything, and you're like, right,
But even in the quiet moments that he's maybe having with Shanks or with Sarah, he's often smoking a cigarette, and his hands are always moving.
He's always occupied.
He's always it's like he's got like not a twitch, but it's a nervous kind of, maybe he always has to be moving or doing something, and you can imagine his leg is probably tapping under the table or something. It's just that kind of energy that he has that he needs to maybe let it out in some way. And it's, as you say, it's just an absolutely masterful performance from Peter Mullan in this role.
I think he knows. I think Peter Mullan Peter, not necessarily through experiences he's had himself, but I think his father was an alcoholic, or his father certainly had problems with alcohol. Because I know he's actually born in Peterhead, but they moved to Glasgow when he was quite young, so I think he essentially grew up in Glasgow. I think his father was often unemployed and was a drinker, and then, he plays an alcoholic again, but not a recovering alcoholic in Ned's as the kind of belligerent father. So I think it's a character, it's a type of character that he knows well, and all those little subtleties that you've just described. Your hands need to be occupied, can't stop moving, legs twitching, all that sort of stuff. I think you would really have to know that world to be able to portray it the way Peter Mullan does.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you have to think, when Mullan is at the top of his game in something like this, as an actor or a Scottish actor, you must just watch him and be like, oh, what's the point? Why do I even bother? I know we've had the debate a few times in the Swally of is it Mullan or is it Cox? Is probably the greatest Scottish actor. I mean, I think it has to be Mullan. I've often swayed with Cox purely because I think it's because it likes a Bob Servan.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I can't see Peter Mullan doing a role like that.
No.
And that's why I think Cox, because he has the range, so to speak. However, Mullan's. However, a lot of the stuff Cox does is maybe a bit tongue in cheek, and it is, when you think back to, I guess things like Rob Roy, for example, or even his performance in A Shot at Glory, or even Succession, is kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas Mullan has done comedic stuff. I mean, of course, The Steamy, he's brilliant as Andy. If you excuse the blackface at the end, he's fantastic in that role. Again, playing a bit of a drunk. So it's maybe seen a trend here for Mullan.
I think with Cox, I can't imagine Brian Cox doing a Ken Loach film, like that type of production where, like I read his autobiography last year, and he's sort of a classical actor, Cox. You know what I mean? He started his career on the stage, still performs on the stage when he's not making films or TV series, and certainly his passion lies in like stuff like the Royal Shakespeare Company and that sort of thing. I can't imagine him playing a character like Joe, when it's not that I don't think he could do it. I just think that he is, his passions lie elsewhere. I think Mullan is interested in playing, or he certainly was around about this time. He's sort of become a bit of an international star, hasn't he? But I think around about this time, I think he was interested in playing what he would probably describe himself as kind of real people, and exploring. I mean, I was there. What I kept thinking about when I was watching this was Tyrannosaur, the film that he did with Paddy Considine, where I don't think his character Joseph in Tyrannosaur, I don't think he's an alcoholic as such, but he's, I guess, for want of a better description, he's a waster who spends a lot of his time in the pub, and he's got anger issues and everything else. And I think those are the types of characters that Mullan enjoys playing. Like, I think that's where his passion lies. I think, he'll do stuff like Ozark, and he probably quite enjoys doing stuff like that as well. And he was in that new Lord of the Rings series that was on Amazon recently, although I watched that, I think he must have played one of the dwarfs, because all the dwarfs are Scottish and they're under heavy makeup and everything. So, whereas Cox's passion lies in like Shakespearean roles and classical, like Harold Pinter roles and classical stage roles and things. I think Mullan's passion lies in playing characters like Joe and Joseph and Tyrannosaur and probably Johnny Swan and Trainspotting and the Dad and Ned's. I think that's what he enjoys about acting the most,
I think the level of performance that he gives in some of the scenes, I think that's why this film's so powerful as well, because you're just totally invested in the characters, but it's so real. And a lot of Ken Loach films are, of course, dripping in realism, but it's just the little things. And as you said, I think some of the actors probably they did improvise a few scenes, but I'm spotting a few bits that when I think Joe goes into the health centre to thank Sarah for sending a letter to the social, and she comes running out after him, and they're speaking in the street, and the wind's in Sarah's hair and face, and she's flicking her head. And like, that is the most natural thing to do, but you never see that in a film because the director would be like, cut, we didn't see your face for that second. Can you not do that? Or can you move it with your left hand? Don't swing your head round, which is the natural thing to do. And it's just subtle little things like that that are in a Ken Loach film that just makes it so much more realistic, and you're so much more invested, and you feel like you're watching real life rather than a film. And the scenes that you have with Joe and Sarah, again, it's just so natural that when he stays for a pizza and the glass of wine's in front of him, and they're playing that like in a little music quiz. Yeah. That's exactly the type of thing you would expect. And when she does say, the cheers, and the way he just says, I don't drink, I'm an alcoholic, her reaction is just, oh, okay. But you're kind of heartbroken for Joe in that second because you're thinking, how's she going to react? Like, is she going to take this okay? And he's sharing something with her that is obviously very close to him. And you could tell he's been worried about telling her or saying that to her. And it's almost like, oh, it's out. And she's okay with it.
Oh, well, cheers.
I don't drink, Sarah.
Well, why didn't you say?
I'm an alcoholic.
How long have you been off?
About 10 months. Nearly a year.
Right. Need any help?
I'm in AA.
Right.
It's good. Long way to go.
I'm too nosy, ain't I?
No, it's alright. No, it's good. It's fine, I like it. You're direct. Don't mess about.
Yeah. He's a bit ashamed, and obviously worried about what her reaction's going to be. But I think I like the way that Louise Goodall played it, whether it was workshopped or whether it was in the script. She's she's a health visitor, right? So she sees she works in this, as the internet describes, tough Glasgow neighbourhood. So but she's experienced. She's probably got experience of people like him, and she's very sort of, she's not blasé about it, but she's very sort of accepting of it, like straight away. And she apologises for pouring a glass of wine and everything. And, and the thing is as well, like, to your point about Ken Loach, in another director's hands, that scene, we could have had Joe with, like, looking at the glass of wine, beads of sweat, like, going down his temples and stuff, and it's not like that, I think in that moment, I think, again, it's maybe a bit of a callback to that moment which shocked me so much when he fell off the wagon. First time I saw the film, when he falls off the wagon later on, towards the end, is his self-control when that glass of wine's in front of him. Because I think he even picks it up at one point when he's talking to her about it and sets it back down, or maybe I can't quite remember. But, it's not like a big dramatic, like holding his hand back from picking up the or whatever, or sort of existential struggle. He's just kind of I can't drink it. I'm an alcoholic.
It's exactly as you say. In the hands of someone else, it might have been like that. But he's sitting. I think he's dinging the glass as they're playing their kind of little music game. And it's when Sarah's phone rings, she sort of points it to the full glass and says, "Is that rotten?"
Yeah.
And goes to the phone. And then Joe gets up and paces around the kitchen. But I didn't think it was like, he's like, oh God, I want to drink that wine. I took that as he's like, right, I'm going to have to tell her.
Yeah.
Or just the fact of his nervous energy that he just has to get up and pace about because she's not there to interact with.
Yeah.
So he's on his own.
Yeah.
So he has to do something. And it looked like the most natural thing in the world for him to get up and pace about.
Yeah. Again, and it just goes back to these little sort of subtleties of movement and character and stuff that only an actor who really knows that type of individual would be able to like put on the screen,
And obviously the relationship between the two, the powerfulness of when he is explaining to her why he doesn't drink and effectively what happened to drive him to. And their relationship's not so much blossoming. I guess that's their first date, the evening of the first date that they've been on, because she gets locked out and they go back to his, makes a cup of tea, and he explains why he doesn't drink. And you say it's because he had a violent outburst with his ex, or girl he used to drink with, and that shamed him so much. And again, he's opening up to her about that. Now, I was quite surprised in a way that they put in the scene, because to jump back to the very beginning of Joe's speech that he gives in the AA meeting, it's so powerful and it's so raw. And I love that. In any other director, we'll probably say that a lot, you would have had maybe Joe just sitting there solemnly and the voiceover playing and it looks round everyone else, or you would have like flashbacks or like a montage of his drinking during the days with his voiceover. But no, he's just sat there in this room. There's coughing, there's chair scraping. It just feels dirty and raw, and it's so well done. So when he's telling Sarah about what happened, I was quite surprised that they had like a flashback that you see him in the stairwell with a girl and then you see him hitting her. And I can't decide if I like that part or not. Maybe you did need to see it to really give you that powerful image, to really understand what he'd done. But I think Mullan just telling her is almost enough. I'm genuinely not sure if that flashback was needed.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of agree with you, but I also kind of wonder if it was important to show what Joe was like when he was drinking. Maybe that was behind the decision. To show that because the Joe that you see in the flashback. I mean, I think that comes about half an hour or so into the film. That's not the Joe that we've just spent half an hour with. You know what I mean? This is a different guy, and again, it underlines. Maybe it serves to underline the change in his personality when he was drinking, and how and why it was so important for him to realise that he couldn't keep going like that.
And that's the thing when he is telling you this, because by that point we've spent enough time with Joe and we know his character, that when he is telling her and we are seeing it, we are thinking that's not you, Joe. Why would you do that? That's not you. Yeah. And I think there's something that, another part of the film, that it's Sarah's backstory, because there's something there and it's hinted upon a couple of times, but we never actually find out what it is. When Joe tells her about what he'd done, and she does say to him, "You've never forgiven yourself." Yeah. I know about that as well. Yeah. And later on, when he gives her the ring and says that he loves her, she says, like, if you knew, you wouldn't be saying this. But that's never explored. We don't know what she's hiding. All we know is her dad died like 14 months ago. But is it that? It can't be. There's something going on with Sarah's life as well, but we don't need to find out what it is.
Yeah. And like she, the moments of high emotion for her, she kind of, like when she's, all through the rest of the film, she's quite kind of poised to a point. She's relaxed, she has a laugh with Joe and everything, but the moments of high emotion, like this scene that you've just described, and then the scene later when she comes back to Joe's flat to try and sort of reconcile, and then Liam comes and Joe gets caught in the lie and everything, and she sort of shouts, "Leave me," like a sort of little girl would say if she, in Glasgow, like that, leave me. It's the sort of, like that to me, sort of, it made me think, that perhaps she's sort of playing a bit of a character with Joe, not because she's trying to deceive him in any way, but because she's trying to project a certain personality. And then these moments of high emotion, like she smashes something up in Joe's flat when she finds out that he's been lying to her. So she's like highly emotional, and I don't know if that's supposed to be because, just before that's not just earlier before we find out that she's pregnant. So is it supposed to be something to do with the fact that she's newly pregnant, or does she have some emotional sort of complex issues? Like, to your point, we don't, the director doesn't feel that we need to go into, because the film it's about Joe, it's about this man that's trying to get to grips with a new life, which doesn't include alcohol, which has defined his life up until the sort of 10 months or so before we meet him in the film.
And I think that's also the thing. She does say when she's speaking to Joe and confronting him, I can't remember the exact line, but she does say, "Are you lying to me? Are you lying to me? Tell me the truth or I'll break something." Yeah. So when Liam comes and she smashes something and then she's throwing her bag against the wall, she's, to say that, tell me the truth or I'll break something. Yeah. That's, again, as you've said, it's quite a childlike thing to sort of say.
Yeah. And it's surprising because up until, like through the whole film, apart from when he gives her the ring and the way she reacts in that scene, she's quite a sort of calm and collected character. Even at the very beginning when we first meet her, when he kind of rubs her up the wrong way, when he's trying to get, wants Liam to come to the game. She needs him to stay for the health visit. You know, he calls her a lassie. She says, "Don't call me a lassie," and everything. But she's still quite in control and composed, and even in those moments, in the scene, which I think is one of the best scenes in the film, by the way, and Peter Mullan's not in it, but the scene in the doctor's surgery when Sabine's fucking kicking off because she wants to put her cigarette out, and then she wants her prescription and everything. Even in that scene, she's the professional health visitor trying to calm the situation down. She tries to fight Sabine's corner despite the way she's behaved with the doctor and everything. But then these moments when she's with Joe, when you know she becomes almost somebody else as well, to a point, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. I agree with that. Yeah, very true. I mean, would you put your cigarette out if Lorraine from Deacon Blue asked you to?
I mean, there's not much that I wouldn't do if Lorraine from Deacon Blue asked me. I've always thought, I know she's getting older, but I've always thought that she is a strikingly beautiful woman. That sort of black hair and you know, just their features and everything. And she's excellent in this. I think this is one of her early 40s into acting before she did a few years in River City, and she's great. You know, is Maggie her character's name, right? It's Louise's friend.
Yes.
Yeah, she's great, and it's great to see her. I did see her at Glasgow Airport once when I was flying to Belfast. I saw her in W.H. Smith's buying a copy of The Woman's Own, but I wouldn't dare approach her. Would be far too shy to go. Well, back in those days anyway.
So obviously we have Joe and Sarah's relationship, which goes through its up and downs, but my other favourite relationship that we have in the film is Joe and Shanks. And Shanks played by Gary Lewis, and they're just fantastic together, and you could tell, you know, really good friends. And of course Shanks is one of the first people Joe mentions in the film, because it was Shanks that made him come to AA, and then it was Shanks 5 years later that made him come back. He owes a lot to Shanks, and you see a lot of the interaction with them together. It's great at the football when they're just standing on the sidelines with each other, but it's the little quiet moments they have together that just so much. And when they're decorating the flat, and the way they realise that they can't hang wallpaper, and as long as there's no ceilings, and then it cuts the ceiling, and the scene of them talking Sarah out of putting paper on the ceiling is just brilliant. The banter that they have with each other.
I've been in the game for a while. I just tell you, in my experience, it's not a good idea putting paper on the ceiling.
No, not on these old houses, man.
No.
Yeah, but I just thought if we put the lining paper up, it would cover the cracks and then paint over it.
Well, that sounds alright in theory, but
It should be okay.
Who's upstairs?
A couple of students.
Students?
Nah, that's a good.
Bad news. You're talking about parties and stuff, Sarah. You're looking at a lot of vibration. I mean, a lot of people don't realise how delicate these old ceilings are, you know?
Plus, there's a mines in here.
Aye, and there's the continuous settlement, you know? I mean, you look from the window to the door there. I mean, you're talking about, that's a big slope. And I'd give it, 3 months before the wallpaper started coming down? If that, you know?
Yeah.
And it has to be I wonder if that was scripted, that line. I hope it was, or if it was improvised. When he's hanging the wallpaper and Gary Lewis's trousers are falling down, and Joe says it's like Yul Brynner with an axe through his heat.
I've got that written down as well.
But as you said earlier, the scene you mentioned where Shanks gives him the 20 quid to go on the date with Sarah, and he encourages to ask her out. And then, of course, the later scene with the two of them, once Shanks finds out that he's working for McGowan, the kind of the volley of abuse he gives him, and the way some of the swear words and words he comes out with, you know, about was it like being a member of the McGowan Club or something along those lines. It's it's kind of trying to bring Joe back down to earth. And of course, when Sarah storms out, he's the first person that Joe calls, but of course he doesn't get a hold of him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I do get a sense that Peter Mullan and Gary Lewis are mates anyway. Yeah, you know, but you know, like Shanks is there a lot. And then when Joe and Sarah's relationship sort of gets a bit of momentum, we don't see him so much. But then to your point, you know, Shanks is the one that, you know, Shanks is obviously his sponsor, and we don't know if he's had issues with alcohol in the past or not, or if he's just Joe's mate and he's just been looking out for him and trying to support him and encourage him for all these years. But yeah, like that moment when he calls Shanks up, but it's the message on the answer machine when he says Shanks, even in this moment, this moment of like high drama, Shanks' answer machine message says, "Please speak slowly because this machine runs really quickly," or something like that.
Oh yeah, it has to make you laugh. But as you say, I think they are very good friends because you can tell that relationship, the kind of banter between them is just so natural, and there's nothing forced there at all. In fact, there's nothing really forced in this film at all. No. Everything just seems so natural.
Well, I mean, there's a kind of company of actors there. You got Mullan and Lewis, obviously. Then you got Dave McKay as Liam. You got Stephen McCall. You got David Hayman. Who's Hayman is sort of, by the time he comes in this film, he's kind of the sort of old man of Scottish films, even though he's not that old at that point, but he's just been around for such a long time. And I always kind of get the feeling, I mean, I've been lucky enough to meet David Hayman and Gary Lewis on 2 separate occasions, but I've always got the impression that, there is a sort of collective of Scottish actors, like I think Robert Carlyle's probably in there too, that, that know each other and like to work with each other and everything, and have a very, and there's a chemistry that comes out of that on the screen, Orphans is a great example. Got Dougie Henschel there, Stephen McCall, who was a young actor, like Gary Lewis. Those 3 guys are fucking, they are fucking swinging in that film. They don't share a huge amount of screen time together apart from at the beginning and at the end, but they're fucking swinging. And it's the same in this one as well. And the character of Shanks, he's not like a exuberant sort of gregarious character. He's got a bit of a dry wit, but you do get a feeling that he's your mate. You know what I mean? If you need somebody, if you need somebody to come and give you a dig out or whatever, he's the one you're going to phone up,
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that. And of course, you're mentioning all the heavyweights that are in this in terms of, Mullan, McKay, Hayman, Lewis, McCall. And they even managed to give their mate Rab Affleck a tiny little role. A blink and you'll miss it role as the truck driver. Getting locked in the back of a truck. I'm pretty sure Big Rab would have been able to overpower them in the back of that truck.
Punched a hole in the fucking shutter and ripped it open with his bare hands.
So, Dave McKay as Liam. Has Dave McKay ever been better than he is in this film? He's phenomenal.
Oh, he's fantastic. Liam. He's really good at it.
Like, absolutely incredible. Goes toe-to-toe with Mullan in, all the scenes he's in, and didn't, I wasn't taken out of it at all. If you think back to, because it was Mullan and McKay in Braveheart that were always the two of them together. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
And if you think about Dave McKay in that, and of course, 4 years previously, when he's delivering his lines, but the English are so many, and we are so wee, it's a bit stilted. Yeah. And you think, in that 4 years, he has learnt and developed so much. Yeah, and I wonder if Mullan took him under his wing, a fair bit. He's just phenomenal in this film. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, but I mean, in fairness, I mean, like Mullan and McKay's script in Braveheart, it's not great.
Yeah.
You don't watch Braveheart for the realism and the fucking dynamic banter. You watch it for for all the other reasons. No, yeah, he's fantastic in it, and I think McKay was supposed to play Stephen McCall's character in Orphans, I think, and I don't. Oh, and then something happened that stopped him from doing it. I can't remember exactly what it was. Stephen McCall sort of stepped in, but yeah, I mean, he's fantastic in it, and the scenes with him and Sabine. By the way, the actress who plays Sabine, I think, is fucking really good in this. I mean, she's very, very true to life. I don't think she's done the actress. What's her name here? Anne-Marie Kennedy. I don't think she's done a great deal of acting sort of previously or subsequently, maybe little bits and bobs here and there, but she's really good. I mean, that scene I mentioned earlier in the doctor's surgery when she fucking kicks off, and then the scene when Jo comes in and she's sitting in the bathroom and try to like get a vein up to do a shot smack. Do you know what I mean? Like she's fucking brilliant. I mean, that's not a lot is said in that scene, but just between the two of them, but she's really, really good in it. And when she comes back and that scene with her and Liam, and they have the argument because she's been up the town, and he thinks that she's been in the game and getting money, being sort of prostituting and stuff up there. Yeah, she's fucking brilliant. And again, sorry to fucking go on, but like the scene earlier on between her and Sarah, when, you know, Sarah's examining the wee boy, and she's saying, you know, Liam reads to him every night, it's me who lets him down. You know what I mean?
Heartbreaking.
Yeah,
heartbreaking. Absolutely that part. And it was when I was rewatching it, I picked up on that because I kind of missed that a little bit on first viewing. But yeah, picking it up, it really broke my heart, her saying that. And you think, well, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's difficult, of course, you know, when you're
struggling with addiction.
When you're in.
I mean, there's a moment just before the scene with her and Joe in the bathroom, when Joe's coming up the stairs in the close, and the wee girl, the wee neighbour girl, has got the wee boy, and she's sort of hugging him on the stairs, and, you know, Joe speaks to her, and she's, you know, and he's out on his own and everything, and you only see that for a few seconds, but there was something fucking heartbreaking about that. You know, the wee girl's sense of protection. You know, because they don't quite understand what's going on in the flat, but instinctively they know to stay out of the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's got her arms around him, and she's looking after him and stuff. And I don't know. It sounds silly because you only see her for a minute, but it's really moving. You know, I found it really moving anyway.
And I think as great as Dave McKay's performance is, and it's not his fault that what happens. It's Joe is just such a good guy that he's looking out for everyone on his team, and he's looking out for Liam in particular, and I guess because Sabine, of course, because Sarah's involved in terms of the health worker aspect, but he really has taken Liam under his wing, as you see early on after the football match when it's just them in the van, and he's asking him one-on-one, you know, is everything okay? Are you keeping clean? And Liam kind of, you know, admits that he's struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think he's got, you know, kind of taken a personal investment in Liam and Sabine. So when it turns out that McGowan, who is the big bad gangster, Liam and Sabine effectively owe him money, and McGowan's taken Liam, then he runs off to go and get and find him and find McGowan, played by David Hayman. David Hayman's just always great in everything he does, but this in particular, just he's so calm and so menacing, which is it's worse, you know, than if he was a big brute. When Joe comes shouting at him after he's sat and spoke to Liam, and he's just calm down, and he's just slowly telling him what he could do to him, and what he would do to his nurse. It's so menacing. It's just fantastic from Hayman.
McGowan! Oh, fucking touch him. You fucking touch him. Touch that boy and I'll fucking kill you, man.
Joe, behave yourself. Come on. Easy. Let him go, guys. Let him go. Come here. Come on, it's all right. Now listen, I can't be seen to lose face. That'd be suicide. Let's sort this out, Joe.
I'm not gonna have you, McGowan.
All right? Don't be a big daft boy, pal. I'd have you first, and you know that.
I've got fuck all to lose.
Yeah. He's a great actor, you know, and you know he pops up in these, you know, I mean the role McGowan's not a small role, but he's only in the screen for about 10 minutes. And you know this is a guy who has had his own sort of syndicated TV show, the End of the Plant, Trial and Retribution. I mean, that seemed to run for years, and he was a lead actor in that. You know, he's been in Hollywood films, he's been in Scotch and Rye, he's been in Peter McDougall plays, he's been in fucking all sorts of stuff. You know, and in this role, you know, there's a sort of, again, feels like there's a kind of fundamental understanding there of, because, you know, when you grow up in Glasgow, like there are guys like that around that you might not know, but you're sort of aware of, or whatever, or somebody who knows somebody who knows them and things, and they, you know, they have this sort of air of mystique, you know, you know, these fucking, you know, and they're just fucking thugs and arseholes at the end of the day. But he, I can say that because I live in Dubai, but then a lot of them come to Dubai on holidays. Maybe I better be careful what I say. Yeah. But he is, again, understanding of the type of character, but also the relationship between him and Joe. I think, you know, they go back years and years. I think Joe even says at one point that they grew up in the same scheme, and you know, they've known each other since they were little boys and everything. And you know, he's sort of, you kind of get the feeling that McGowan kind of doesn't want any sort of bother with Joe, because he knows him, and maybe he knows what Joe is capable of if he's pushed too far, but equally he likes the idea of manipulating him as well, and through Liam he can do that, you know.
Yeah, because he must have hung around for a bit, because when he goes to the snooker club, one of McGowan's guys says to him, the last time you were in here you had shite running down your leg. And so he must have drank in there on occasion when he was drinking, and obviously made an arse of himself.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. But the thing, at the moment when Joe kind of blows up and he fucking batters them all, and obviously he thumps McGowan, and then there's not sure what happens. I don't know if maybe Peter Mullan has actually accidentally hit David Hayman or what in that moment, but you sort of see Hayman in the back. When Joe's got the baseball bat and he's sort of circling around, you sort of see Hayman at the back and he's got his hand in his cheek looking a bit surprised, but he doesn't look surprised like maybe you'd expect like some gangster to look if someone had just decked him. He looks surprised like he would look like an actor who had been hit by accident.
So effectively Joe has to do a couple of errands to get back, to write off the debt that Liam and Sabine have, which, and of course when Sarah breaks up with him over this, then he goes to tell Liam that that's it, give you 300 quid, it's off. After smashes up McGowan's car after the fight that he has, which I guess leads to the end of the film. Which I had a little look online and I read a review by the American reviewer Roger Ebert, who reviewed this film, and he loved it. And he said, often with a film like this, you think you know how it's going to end. The ending of My Name is Joe left me stunned. I've rarely seen a film where the conclusion is so unexpected and yet in its own way so logical and inevitable. And it's he's hit the nail on the head there, because the ending to this film is just absolutely brutal. The last 12 minutes or so, Joe driven back to drink after what's happened. Who can blame him, to be quite honest? And as you say, it is a shock when you discover this, and he just sits down with his bottle of vodka and I think lemonade. It
looks like it, like bars lemonade, I think. Yeah.
And as you said earlier, he's an angry drunk. And the scene of when Liam comes to see him, it's just so heartbreaking, because Joe's pissed and he just rips into him. And it's so realistic, because he's speaking so precisely and slowly. And it's so methodical the way he's saying, I hate you, I hate your wife, I hate your scabby kid. If I had a gun, I would shoot you all. And Liam, to be fair, it's like, it's not you, Joe. I know you're not saying this. I know it's not you, it's the drink. But the hatred flowing through Joe at that point, and the way he's delivering that, it's just, it's brutal to watch.
That's what it is. I think I've just fucking cracked it. That's what it is. That's what it is, Liam. You're fucking dumb.
Joe, I know you don't mean that, right?
I hate your scumbag whore fucking life.
Joe, fuck off, man.
I hate your scabby fucking way.
Joe, don't say anything else. I know it's a drink, Tom.
I would shoot the fucking lot of you. Take you outside, I'd get a gun, and I'd put a bullet through your useless fucking he's your scum.
What could I do?
300 quid.
Joe, what could I do?
How much
I didn't even fucking go.
Fucking excuses.
It's no excuses, Joe. Fuck's sake, I'm telling you the truth.
For everything, man. It's all you live off as a fucking excuse.
Joe.
You are a fucking excuse.
Well, this is the thing, because, you get a sense that in that moment, Joe is, he's obviously, he's had a choice, he's had a chance for happiness with Sarah. It's all, he's sort of been a victim of his own hubris to some extent. It's all gone wrong. And the reason it's gone wrong is through Joe's sense of duty to help. And it's a bit of a misguided sense of duty in how he decides to try and help him, like you just described, like doing this daft sort of courier job for McGowan. But, it's gone wrong because of what the choices Joe's made, you know what I mean? But in that scene, you kind of get the sense that he can't accept his own failure and the mistakes that he's made that have led to him losing Sarah. So he's because he's drunk, he's just channeling it all into this, these horrible things that he's saying to Liam. But then what it ends up is Liam sort of feels that he's got no choice. Like Joe's telling him that he's fucking useless, better off without you, blah, blah, blah. He never says, it's your fault that I've lost Sarah. He just fucking he's just fucking horrible to him, to the point where Liam ends up, he sees McGowan's guys sort of coming to the back of the building, the front of the building, and ends up hanging himself out the flat window, and the sort of Joe sort of comes to his senses, tries to help him, but he's too heavy, and then Joe's trying to pull him up by the rope that he's got around his neck, which isn't going to save him that way. He's going to make it fucking worse. And then I think it sort of leads to, it sort of raises a lot of questions about the end of the end of the film. You're like, first of all, do we want Joe to get away with the lie that he's telling Sarah, first of all, when he's telling her that, before Liam comes in and sort of fucks it all up and everything, should he get away with it? Because he's trying, he's spent all these months trying to have some semblance of a normal life, get his life back on track, and then he's met this woman that he's growing really close to really quickly. He's fallen in love with her. Do we want him to get away with it, or do we want him just to be completely honest? And then if he was completely honest, would she still react the way that she did? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a very good point. Because you are kind of erring, just tell her the truth. She's going to be mad, but then it's kind of going to blow over, because surely she's going to see that you're doing it to help Liam. But it's the fact that he's lied to her, and then lied to her face a couple of times. And then when Liam comes bursting in, she's realised, well, I can't believe a word you say now. That's it. Yeah. You've broken the trust. So how can you?
Yeah, and he sort of desperately tries to, we have that moment when he comes back to her flat when Maggie's there, and he sort of pushes his way in. And again, he says sort of one last sort of attempt to reconcile, which fails, And then the other thing is, the other sort of bit of ambiguity about the end of the film is, Liam's killed himself. We don't, we leave Sabine and Scott, the wee boy, at the funeral. We see Joe and Sarah kind of walking away, kind of together, although they don't really talk to each other. And it's kind of, well, is Joe really going to just be able to get on with his life now? There's still the matter of this debt that's owed to these gangsters, all of whom he has brutally fucking assaulted in their own pub.
Yeah.
So, he's, he walks away with Sarah. Maybe they work it out. She's pregnant, crucially. Maybe she's going to tell him. They're always going to be connected, whether they're together or not, through this baby, if she has it. But can Joe just walk off into the sunset after what he's done?
Well, that's exactly a question I had that you've raised there, was the fact that obviously McGowan's thugs are coming into the flat. Liam knows that they're going to kill him and Joe. So that's why he obviously hangs himself to try and save Joe. Yeah. Because they're going to fuck off. Yeah. Great. Yeah, they're going to fuck off there and then. That's Liam's debt now paid. Yeah. However, it's exactly as you've said. Joe has, especially the guy Alf, headbutted him, smashed a pint glass in his face, and then I think it's like 4 whacks with the baseball bat he gets. Everyone else has been baseball battered. McGowan's car's fucked. Yeah. Because panned in all the windows. That's a whole brand new debt. Yeah, exactly. And if he was going to break Liam's legs over $2,000, fuck knows what, he's going to kill Joe. And yeah, you're right. I don't understand how he's going to escape that, because there's no way they're just going to let him off with that.
No, for sure. And McGowan says a few times in the exchanges with Joe, I can't just let Liam away with it. There's a reputation to maintain here, and what will people say if I just let him off with it? I can't do it,
Yeah. I have to save face.
Yeah. So, that sort of indicates that if he can't be seen to lose face over a debt of like £2,000, whatever, he definitely can't be seen to lose face over what Joe's done in the pub and then to his car and everything else, But again, is the question I'd ask, is Joe the righteous hero of the story? Because he makes a lot of fucking really, really poor choices in the film. I think we're sort of on his side from the beginning, because we can see that he's trying to, he's trying to stay clean. He's stopped drinking. He's trying to change his life in any way that he can. He's trying to help other people. But the choices that he makes in the film are fucking terrible. The choice of attacking the guy from the social. I mean, that the choice of doing the courier job, the choice of lying to Sarah, and you know, in that moment before Liam knocks the door, when they've kind of reconciled, he thinks he's got away with it. You know what I mean? Like the expression in his face is, you know, either you see him when he's giving her a cuddle, and the look in his face says, well, thank fuck for that, you know. Like, you know, we're back on track and everything for like a few minutes until Liam chaps the door and knocks it all down again. And you're like, well, you know, does Joe, you know, he definitely doesn't deserve whatever justice might be waiting for him at the hands of McGowan and those guys. But does he deserve a happy ending based on the choices he's made? That's true. That's the question, right? You know?
No, it's a very valid point. You're right. He is trying to do the right thing, you think, but yeah, he does make a lot of bad decisions and brings it all upon himself, effectively.
Exactly. He's a victim of his own hubris.
The other kind of moment of slight rage is when he throws the ring that he bought Sarah into the water. Yeah. I did read that Mullan wasn't happy about that scene because he said that Joe knows the value of money, so he's not just going to throw this in the river. But then again, it shows just that brief second of rage that he has,
his emotion,
that he just has to, so he just launches it, which, you know, I think is understandable for the character. It kind of, it does sit right. He's not going to like, oh, well, I better hold on to this then.
Yeah, to your point.
I'll go and get my money back.
When you see it in situ, it completely adds up. You know, we've already seen him lose his patience before with this guy from the social. We see him in flashback losing his patience when he's drunk because the girl he's with is laughing because his key won't work in the door for whatever reason. You know what I mean? So it does sort of make sense, especially when you put it all together with the whole film, that scene.
Yeah.
You know?
We've often discussed on the Swally, it's usually Edinburgh that we discuss this about, or the Highlands, but about how films can make Scotland look beautiful. And I think Glasgow in particular, and God Help the Girl, Glasgow look beautiful. It's no surprise that the Glasgow Tourist Board weren't involved in the funding of this film because it doesn't look the nicest, does it?
No. Well, the scene when Joe's running to McGowan's pub, I know that road. That's Saracen High Street in Postle Park. That's where my granny used to do her shopping. So I know.
I know. Lovely.
I know that little corner quite well. And you know, sure, anybody who knows the north of Glasgow doesn't need me to tell them that Postle Park is not. It's not the most gentrified, nicest part of Glasgow. You know, to be diplomatic. But yeah, but having said that, you know, there's some good shots of Kelvin Grove Park, you know, like when that scene that we just spoke about, when you know, when Joe throws the river into the Kelvin and everything, and you know, it's throws a ring into the Kelvin, I should say. Yeah, I think they don't sort of try and show kind of deprivation and rough areas, and you know, I think it's very, very true to life, I think. You know, the way they present the city. You know, we never go into the city centre at all, crucially. I think it's sort of filmed. I think it's filmed kind of Partick, the south side, and a couple of scenes in the north of Glasgow, like that one in Saracen High Street. But it's not oh, look how deprived this area is. It's more look at the struggles that some of the people who live in this area are facing. You know, which is I think it's a much smarter way of telling the story.
Do you think McGowan purposely gave Joe a Jeep Cherokee to pick up the drugs? Because obviously that's a car that stands out quite a bit if you're driving it from the north down to Glasgow at that time, I would have said. And of course, you can't even work the alarm. Rather than give him, I don't know, a Ford Sierra or something, you know, was that Cherokee, did they need a big car because it's fucking full of drugs? You know, why not get a transit van or something? Do you think he gave him that car because he wanted him to get caught?
It's maybe, I don't know. I mean, but I'm not so sure, because the money that Joe's got, McGowan gave, you know, although we don't see it, the money that he's got to buy the ring and the earrings and everything is money that McGowan gave him for himself. The 500 quid. So I don't think so. But I mean, that scene with the postman, you know, who helps him to turn the alarm off is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, it's very good in terms of, tell me the registration number. I thought it was a good bit of a comedy there in terms of that.
So do you want to put My Name is Joe through our Swally Awards, or do you have a few more points to bring up?
No, I think, to be honest, I mean, we've covered quite a lot, I think. I mean, the only other point I'd written down is that I think if you were asked someone to maybe describe the film in terms of My Name is Joe, or what you read online, it's about it's a bleak tale about, an alcoholic on the dole in Scotland. But it's not. It's about love and loyalty and friendship and hardship and failing and getting by. It's so much more than just the kind of brief description you see about it's about an alcoholic in Glasgow. Yeah, it's so much more than that. And I wish people. I guess it's the same with a lot of Ken Loach films. And the same with Sweet 16. What's it about? Oh, it's just about this wee Ned selling drugs. No, it's nothing. It's. It's so much more than that. It's, I wish it could be described in that way, that people would understand just how beautiful and how deeply absorbing and how heartbreaking this film actually is.
Okay, right. Okay, so let's put My Name is Joe through our Swally Awards.
Okay then, what have we got first, Greg?
Okay, so the James Cosmo Award for being in everything Scottish. You got
That's a tough one.
A rich tapestry of people to pick from there.
Well, that's it. I mean, I'm discounting Rab Affleck because he's got one line. I'm kind of stuck between McKay, Lewis, and Hayman. I went for Dave McKay for this.
Yeah, I went with Hayman, but I think that I don't think that Gary Lewis deserves the awards, but I think he's maybe a bit of a contender for it. He turns up in a lot of things. I mean, it was only a few years after this that he was in Billy Elliot, which I know is not a Scottish film, but it was a massive film. Huge movie for the UK.
Yeah.
Okay, next one then is the Bobby the Barman Award for Best Pub.
So we've got McGowan's Snooker Hall and then the boozer that he's in near the end.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd go with the boozer at the end, although it's full of broken glass now and, bit of shards, a baseball bat. But yeah, that looked like, I mean, you didn't get to see enough of it, but for what I saw, it looked like a decent enough boozer. Although, are you more of a snooker hall man?
I've written none. I wouldn't want to go into any of those pubs, to be honest.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
In this day and age.
That's fair enough. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah.
Okay, next one then, the Jake McQuillan Your Tease Out Award.
Well, what did you go for? I mean, it's probably the one obvious answer.
Yeah, I went with Joe sticking the nut in Mojo before it all kicks off.
Smashing a pint glass over his head. Yeah, just for good measure. Yeah, exactly what I've got. Yeah.
Okay, next one then is the Francis Begbie Award for gratuitous swearing.
There's a lot to choose from, so what did you go for?
I just went for Sabine in the surgery, because there are many an oath uttered in that scene. What did you go for?
The two I liked are probably the two very near the start. It's when, speaking about the shirts, and he says, where are they? Oh, they're in the pipeline. And Joe says, I'll give you a pipeline. I'll stick one up your fucking arse. With regards to the shirts. But I also liked when they get to the match and the other team has got West Germany shirts on. Yeah. And they're having to take them off. And you just hear Joe's kind of walking away as he says it. So you only catch it, but he goes, we'll beat them with no fucking shirts. And I just thought that was a nice. So that was my, two kind of favourites that I liked. Yeah, but there's a lot to choose from.
We didn't really talk about the football scenes that much. But the line, we're always West Germany. This is like nearly 10 years after the Berlin Walls were fucking knocked down.
I had a particular line. I did like Stephen McCall in that scene when it's what's happening. He's pulling my shorts, and Joe says, "Doesn't matter if he's pulling your tadger. Just get on with it."
Okay, next then, the Ewan McGregor Award for gratuitous nudity.
Well, yes, obviously there's just one brief scene that we So we'll move on from there.
Archetypal Scottish moment.
I went with, I mean, there's two really that I went with. I liked there's some beautiful uses of Scottish language in this. So the tadger that I've just mentioned. And I like when Joe and Liam are coming back in the van and McGowan's boys are at the house and Joe says, are you wanting honours? Yeah. And Liam says, no, I don't need honours. I need you to be a witness. And then when Sarah is sitting with a the parents of the kid, and the father says, "Is his eyes a bit scaly? Because my brother's scaly as fuck."
It's a really funny
just
scene.
little uses.
Yeah.
So the use of some Scottish language, but I mean, it's the bagpiper that sells shortbread to Japanese tourists that is the probably the archetypal Scottish moment.
Yeah, for sure. It only knows 3 songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I mean, the one I went for, which to me just feels, and it's a line that somebody gives, and it's the scene when Joe's team find out that they've got to play with their shirts off because the other team are the home team and they're playing as West Germany, and one of the boys is saying to the referee, I'm always Franz Beckenbauer, and the referee says, just get the strip off Franz. It's just something really Scottish about that. It just really slays me every time I hear it. Just get the strip off Franz. Okay, that's the award then, is the Sean Connery Award for who won the film. A pretty clear choice, I think.
I mean, I'd give a shout out to Dave McKay for brilliant performance, but of course, there's only one winner, isn't there? It's obviously Mullan.
Mullan, yeah.
Just absolutely breathtaking performance. So good.
I wonder what, you read about actors who, like I was listening to the Rewatchables the other day. I don't think you listened to it, so I know you don't like her, but it was the one with Jennifer Lawrence on it talking about Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah,
and
I won't listen to that.
They got on to, I can't remember the context, but they were talking about sort of method acting. And I also heard, I've been listening to the Bret Easton Ellis podcast of late, and he interviews Andrew McCarthy, who plays Clay in Less Than Zero, which is based on his book. And they're talking about Andrew McCarthy. Andrew McCarthy's talking about a fight that he, not like a physical fight, but a row that he had with Vincent, what did he say his name? The guy from Full Metal Jacket that plays... D'Onofrio. They had him Law and Order or something like that. And McCarthy's like, I can't be fucking arsed with method acting. And Lawrence was much the same. He's like, I want people to show up, play their part really well and then go away again. I can't bother with all the method. I was thinking because I've listened to both those podcasts this week when I was watching this, and I was thinking, I wonder what Mullan's method is. And I wonder if, I wonder what he has to do to get into, if he can just get into the character of Joe, if he could just get into the character, or if he's got like a process, he needs to sort of get himself into it, and then how easily can he just sort of leave it at the end of the day when they're finished filming or at the end of the shoot. You know what I mean? I would love to ask him what his, if he's just able to, it's like kind of hanging up his tools at the end of the day and way home and he's just himself, or if he needs to sort of kind of decompress after playing such an intense character.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because I know there's been a lot in the press recently about Brian Cox speaking about Jeremy Strong on Succession. Yeah. And Cox saying that, he's a great actor, but he's so method and you cannot sustain that. It's going to kill you. And it's effectively said he delivers such great performances, but I worry about him because how can you do that, be so method? And as Cox says, I just turn up, say my lines and then fuck off. Yeah. And that's the way he did it, but worries about it. So I don't know. I don't know much about Peter Mullan's methods, to be honest. I'd be very interested to find out. I might have to have a little bit of a deep dive and have a look at some interviews that he's done and see if gives anything away. Thank you very much, Gary from Doric Skateboards, for asking us to look at My Name is Joe. Absolutely brilliant film. So, yeah.
I don't think I'll be watching it again for a while, though.
No. Yeah, I think I need a bit of a break now for... to go back into it. Yeah. I
think probably it's worth just sort of dropping in. Obviously, we've been talking about alcoholism and addiction and stuff. And if you're struggling with something like that, there are some good. If you're in Scotland, there's some good agencies that can help you. Particularly Drinkline Scotland. They've got a free helpline which is open every day through the week and the weekends. And it's at 0800 number 0800 731 4314. If you feel that you're struggling with the old booze and you want some help, give them a call.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Greg.
So, Nikki, the episode before this one that Gary chose for My Name is Joe, I had chosen the documentary about Aberdeen's glorious Winners' Cup victory in Gothenburg once in this lifetime, which means it's back to you to choose the content of the next episode. So what are we watching?
Thanks very much, Greg. Well, I think we both agree we maybe need something a little bit lighthearted to follow My Name is Joe. So we've covered a few Scottish police shows on the Swally, but nothing quite like this. So this long-running show has just come to an end after 8 series, but I'd like to look at the first series, and it's only 5 episodes of BBC Scotland's Scot Squad.
Oh, right, I've never watched it. Oh, great.
No, I'm the same. I've never really watched it, but I've seen enough clips online.
Me too, yeah.
They always need to be doing the round, especially the guy that, who is it he says he is? I can't even remember his name now.
He says he's...
ex-Hibs and Celtic footballer.
Is it Liam? No.
Oh, Leigh Griffiths.
Leigh Griffith. Yeah, I knew. I said Liam, but I wasn't far off with Liam.
Yeah. Leigh Griffiths. So yeah, it's available on iPlayer. I don't think it's available on YouTube, but I found it on a other website that I'll send you the link to. Okay, so yeah, we're going to have a look at Scot Squad.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you very much for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this show. If you'd like to get in touch with us with anything you'd like us to cover or anything you've seen in the news that you think's funny, then you can email us on cultureswally@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the socials on Insta @CultureSwallyPod or on Twitter @SwallyPod. And Greg, we have a lovely website as well, don't we?
We do. You can find us at cultureswally.com, where there's some essays about Scottish horror and Scottish television and links to other episodes. Come and check us out.
And if you enjoyed Gary's choice of My Name is Joe, then head over to doricskateboards.com and have a look at what they have to offer.
I mean,
and use the
head
promo
over
code
even if you
Swally.
didn't enjoy My Name is Joe. Still going.
Well, that's
Check out
true.
the website.
Yeah.
Fucking great stuff there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just head over. Yeah. Wonderful. Right. Are you up to anything else exciting today?
No, it's 11 p.m. here. I think I'm well and truly in my cups, so I think I'll be retiring to bed once I tidy up my little workstation here.
Lovely. Well, have a lovely evening. Enjoy your bed, and I'll see you next time.
Until next time.
There's a wee woman there that night. Tiny wee frail woman who whispered everything. And she says something that was so simple. She says, "I can no longer drink with safety." And that really touched me. Even in the state I was in a real state, and she looked me right in the eyeballs and she said, "Remember, you are not alone." And I looked at this woman and I thought, "You're me." This wee woman gave me the courage to start the 12 steps with Shanks there. And I'm no stupid. I know that I've got a long way to go. I take one day at a time, and I pray, and I just hope to Christ I get through it. And I know there could be all sorts around the corner, but I'm really, really glad to be here, and I'm very grateful to be sober. Thank you.